Yes, I never liked doctor's offices. The sterile scent, the bright, unforgiving lights, the stiff paper that rustled under my body like it was listening to my thoughts. All of it made me uneasy. They were places where people were examined, measured, exposed, but Dr. Hayes was different. He didn't make me feel like another chart or another appointment. He made me feel seen, understood in a way I hadn't felt in years. I'm 34, married for 8 years to a man named Tom. He's kind, responsible, predictable, the kind of husband women are told to hold on to. He books my checkups, pays the bills, reminds me to take my vitamins, and kisses me goodnight at 10:15 sharp every single evening. He's steady, constant, like clockwork. But clockwork doesn't make your pulse quicken. It doesn't make you feel breathless just from a glance. Dr. Hayes did. He's 42, with dark hair brushed with silver at the temples, the kind of man whose presence fills a room without needing to say much. His voice has a warmth to it, low, smooth, like bourbon after dark. His hands are confident and precise, but there's something about the way they move that feels deliberate. The first time he examined me, 2 years ago, I noticed those hands. He pressed the stethoscope against my chest, cool metal on warm skin. "Breathe in," he said softly, and I obeyed. His fingers brushed my collarbone and lingered for half a second too long. Nothing happened, but when I went home that night, I couldn't stop replaying that touch in my head. A year later, I booked my appointment late, the very last one of the day, 5:45 p.m. The waiting room was empty. The receptionist had gone home. The world felt still, expectant. I told myself it was just coincidence, but when I stood in front of the mirror before leaving, I knew I was lying. I wore the red dress, the one Tom hates because it's too short, too fitted, too much. I didn't wear a bra or panties, just thigh-high stockings and the weight of my own anticipation. When Dr. Hayes called my name, Mrs. Carter, I felt a tremor in my chest. I stood, the dress rising as I walked toward him. His gaze flicked to my legs before he turned away, professional, controlled. In the exam room, the air was cool, and the faint hum of the overhead light filled the silence. He washed his hands, his sleeves rolled to the elbow, veins shifting under his skin. "So," he said without looking up, "what brings you in today?" I hesitated. My voice came out softer than I intended. "It's something sensitive. I'd rather not have a nurse present." He paused, towel in hand, eyes lifting slowly to meet mine. For a moment, I saw the question in his face, and then the decision. "Privacy is important," he said quietly. He turned to the door, and I heard the faint click of the lock. The sound felt louder than it should have. My breath hitched. "Tell me what's wrong." I sat on the edge of the table, the paper beneath me whispering with every movement. "I've been feeling sensitive," I murmured. "Down there." My hand brushed against my thigh, just above the lace of my stocking. "It's uncomfortable." He stepped closer, his gaze flicking down, then back to my face. "Show me where," he said, his voice lower now. I parted my knees slightly, the dress slid higher, the hem catching against my skin. "Here," I said softly, tracing my inner thigh. His jaw tensed, his hands still at his sides. "I'll need to examine you," he finally said, almost to himself. I nodded. He pulled on gloves, blue latex that snapped lightly at his wrists. "Lie back," he instructed, and I did. The ceiling tiles blurred as I watched him move closer. His hands began at my knee, clinical, detached. "Any pain here?" he asked. "No," I whispered. His hand moved higher. "Here?" he asked again. My breath trembled. "No." The gloves rustled once more, and then slowly he peeled them off. The sound echoed like a decision being made. His bare hand met my skin, warm and real. "Mrs. Carter." "Lauren," I interrupted, my voice barely audible. He froze. "Lauren," he repeated, the name rough in his throat. "We shouldn't." But neither of us moved. His thumb traced the edge of where my panty should have been. The air thickened. I arched just slightly to enough for him to understand. His stethoscope fell against the counter with a dull clatter. His tie followed. He kissed me like a man surrendering to something he'd been fighting too long. Not gentle, not hesitant, hungry. His hands roamed, his wedding ring cold against my skin. My fingers tangled in his hair. The scent of him, soap, warmth, and something darker, filled my lungs. He lifted me onto the table, and the paper beneath us tore, sharp and loud in the quiet room. "Tell me to stop," he whispered against my neck, his breath hot against my skin. "Don't you dare," I breathed. He didn't. The exam light stayed on, its bright beams spilling across our skin, catching the reflection of us in the small mirror on the wall. The image didn't look real. His shirt open, my dress rocked up around my waist, his hands gripping my thighs like he was afraid I might vanish. Every sound, the ragged breathing, the soft thud of bodies against paper, seemed impossibly loud. It felt like the whole world had shrunk to the space between us. When it was over, the silence returned like a wave crashing over everything. He reached for tissues without meeting my eyes, his breathing uneven. I fixed my dress, trying to smooth out wrinkles that would never really disappear. He straightened his shirt, buttoned it slowly. "Follow up in 2 weeks?" he said, his tone calm again, like the man from before had never existed. I nodded. "I'll book it online." I left quietly, the hallway feeling longer than it ever had before, the sound of the lock echoing in my memory. 2 weeks later, I went back. I told myself I needed to, that I wanted closure, maybe even a repeat. But when I pulled into the parking lot, I froze. There was another woman standing by the entrance, younger, blonde, wearing scrubs beneath her coat. She was laughing softly into her phone, and when she turned, I noticed the faint smudge of lipstick on her collar. It was the same shade I'd once left on his. She got into a silver BMW and drove away without looking back. I sat there for a long time, hands gripping the steering wheel, my reflection staring back at me from the rearview mirror. My throat ached, but not from betrayal, from realization. I wasn't special. I wasn't different. I was just next. That night, when Tom kissed me goodnight at 10:15, like always, I felt the press of his lips and tasted latex and bourbon. The sound of the lock echoed in my mind again, louder this time, clearer. I changed doctors after that. Told Tom it was because the new office had better parking. He smiled, kissed my forehead, and never questioned it. But I still think about Dr. Hayes, about the way his hands trembled slightly after, the way his voice cracked when he said my name. And sometimes, late at night, I wonder how many doors he's locked since mine. How many women sat on that same table, mistaking his attention for affection, his control for care? Some secrets don't vanish. They linger, hidden in quiet rooms that smell like antiseptic and regret, waiting for the next heartbeat that dares to quicken under his touch. Because even now, years later, I can still feel that moment, the click of the lock, the warmth of his hands, and the dangerous illusion that for a little while I was the only one that mattered.